Good morning, Santa Clarita. Welcome in. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I'm Matt Watson with Amber Raskin. Good morning, Amber. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? How was your weekend?
It was great. Very relaxing. I did get
Yeah.
outside a little bit. Did you get a chance to get outside?
A little bit, yeah. I've been walking a lot every day, keeping my social distance when I do, but a lot of walking. It's been great.
Yeah.
Like at least an hour a day.
A lot of people got out this weekend. The weather was absolutely perfect for it. I noticed, it rained right up until Friday afternoon, I think, and then the weather cleared up perfect for the weekend and
Yeah.
didn't start raining until last night.
It's amazing how busy the week can be, even though we don't leave home, you know?
Yes. Oh, yes, I know. Now, Amber and I are here in studio, and our guest this week will be joining us remotely over the telephone. And we are, just like everyone else is, being very socially minded, making sure that we keep our distance. We just texted a picture to our producer, Sarah McDaniels, and it's funny, we're normally used to clumping together in front of our sign here for Eye on the Valley, but this time, if you look on the iLead Schools Facebook pages, you'll notice even getting together for a picture, we're keeping that 6 feet of distance. Well, while our students are at home due to recent state, local, and district orders, KHTS, in collaboration with SCVI and iLead Schools, brings you this special edition of Eye on the Valley called Homeschooling Answers. We're here to help you, guide you through this time, support you and your kids through certainly what are uncertain and ever-changing times. And as things continue to evolve, we're here to help you get through it. We can do this together. We keep the learning going, we maintain your sanity, and help you sustain a happy and healthy home right here by your side. Each day at 9 a.m., we're here providing support for you on this new homeschooling journey and to support the work that you're doing at home with your children. We continue to establish web resources for you. For example, just last week, we launched a website that we're helping to build called Homeschooling Answers. Do you want to describe that a little bit more, Amber?
Yeah, it's because last week was pretty crazy getting our schools transitioned to distance learning, although we've been working on that for many weeks. But
Right.
and there was a lot going on. It hasn't gone quite as quickly as I'd hoped. However, that said, we do have our Homeschooling Answers site up. And the intent is to share with the general public those things that we already know, those tools, those websites, those resources that we already know work, and it's mostly intended to be like a site curating great resources for people that find themselves suddenly homeschooling and
Right.
didn't expect them to, like our governor.
You're right.
I posted on my Facebook page, there was last year, I don't think it's any secret that in charter school world, there was a lot of talk about charter schools and a lot of negativity, particularly around homeschooling. And while there are some things that certainly need to be addressed, there were some, headlines that I'm sure many people have seen. There are an awful lot, many, many more people who are thriving in a homeschooling setting and thriving in teaching, being a homeschool teacher or homeschool parent. And so all of a sudden, when the entire world finds themselves homeschooling, now we say, wow, okay, let's share what we've learned, because there's a whole heck of a lot we've learned. And it's interesting because I found myself homeschooling suddenly many, many years ago. I mean,
Right.
both of my kids are adults now, but back before I started SCVI, the first school in iLead, and then subsequently more schools, I was doing exactly what the world is trying to do right now. I was trying to multitask by homeschooling my own kids for a year and a half, because I had put my son was in preschool, but my daughter was in first grade or second grade, and I had tried a startup private school that didn't work for us. So halfway through the year, I pulled her, and I didn't want to put her back into a public district school because I knew that I was going to be starting another school, right?
Okay.
So I didn't want to have too many transitions for her. So I decided to homeschool. So here I find myself trying to start up a school at the same time as homeschooling for the first time my own kids. And it's a lot like what people are dealing with right now. So that was a really...
Having to homeschool their kids and work on
Yeah,
their...
juggling.
Yeah, yep.
And so that was a really interesting time. But one of the things I found out in that time is, first of all, just relax. Like, there's all this structure that we're used to going to to traditional school when you drop them off at a certain time and you pick them up at a certain time. And one of the things that I really got in touch with is that's all really about a group dynamic. Because when you have a large group of people, which we're not even allowed to have right now, right? When you have a large group of people, there needs to be certain agreements, particularly around time and activity, because you're trying to do it in bulk, right? And when you're doing homeschooling for just one or two, or even if you have a large family, like 6 kids, right? That's still the world's smallest class ratio, 1 to 6, even if they're all different ages, right? And that's something to consider when we have our empathy for our teachers, who usually have no less than 20 to 25 kids, right? So even a large family is a very small class ratio. Keep that in mind. So what I started to see is that a lot of the structures and sort of like demands we put in place in a group setting don't need to be there when somebody's at home doing it on their own. Now, certainly we need to keep our sanity, and so whatever that group dynamic needs to be put in place to thrive as a family makes a lot of sense. But kids, like, they don't, kids don't learn math at a certain age or at a certain time of day better, right? I mean, each kid might learn at a certain time of day better because that's when they're alert and awake. But they don't necessarily. There isn't a preset time for that.
So there's no reason we can't do math after dinner, for example.
Right, or on Saturday,
Sure.
And so when you start to relax about trying to adhere to some external standard, that is the first hurdle.
Right. As a matter of fact, there's some things that might necessarily have to shift in your home. For example, if you're now working with your kids and you're also busy working, typically those two things, my kids' school and my work, happen at the same time.
Right.
And now they might not be able to. They might necessarily have to kind of toggle a little bit.
That is an excellent point.
Yeah. So you mentioned an interesting word. We're helping curate resources on our website, homeschoolinganswers.com. I love how many people have been posting on social media different links to different websites that are really helpful, things that are now suddenly providing free resources for kids and different academic subjects. That's great. What we're doing at homeschoolinganswers.com is helping parents kind of weed through that, because it can be overwhelming when you've got so many resources out there. So I appreciate you and your team putting that up.
Yeah, we're and again, this is for the general public because we've always had it for our schools and our parents and families, and so just a little bit more on the site that we are curating first steps right now, and if you go there and you don't find, maybe you're beyond what's already there, because it's intended to be kind of like a help, an SOS.
Sure.
Keep checking back and sign up for the newsletter, because we intend to continue to populate it and continue to help, because I do expect that people will be more they will understand homeschooling and that it's a valid way to learn.
Right.
That Kendra actually said that it is a valid way to learn. To learn at home and to follow your passions and to not necessarily be so structured in the learning process.
Right, and you bring up a great point. I was actually noticing your team was quite busy over the weekend. There's quite a few more resources up on the website this morning than there was even Friday evening when I checked it.
There's a couple of sections that are really important to note. We have there are live events right now. A lot of them are Khan Academy, because again we're about curating resources, but we intend to start putting up more of our own events. And if anybody out there listening has ideas for things to add to the site, please send them to us. There's videos that have been pre-shot videos. There's some great videos that princesses are talking about hand sanitizing and talking about being afraid. Those are up on the site now.
It's kind of cool to have Rapunzel teach you how to wash your hands and things like that.
Yeah, and so there's going to be more and more of that added.
Okay.
So viewers, listeners, please send us ideas. Matt will give out the email later, and there's a way to email on the site, and we hope to make it a hub to the general public for resources.
Absolutely, and you can email us at homeschoolinganswers@ileadschools.org, and let us know as you're looking through the website. Let us know what you need, and also for these for our morning shows, if there's a guest that you'd like to hear from, or a certain topic that you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know. Just email us at homeschoolinganswers at iLeadSchools.org. You can also check us out on Facebook at Homeschooling Answers. Just search Homeschooling Answers on Facebook, and you will find out, or you will find our page. So reach out and let us know what it is that you need, and we'll get right on it. We also, as I mentioned, we have guests every morning who provide insight and support through their lens of expertise. Amber mentioned our first guest today just a second ago. We also provide tips on things that you can do at home as you're parenting, especially as times get a little bit more stressful with all of us spending most of the day together, to help manage these times. They're great tips for parenting and relationships anytime, but again, we do think they'll be especially helpful for you during these times when families are together so much more frequently now. For example, in response to some of your concerns about screen time and internet safety, we brought Emily Evenson in on a recent show. She's a leader at our online school, iLead Online. Very logical name. And she spoke about digital citizenship. Besides the ideas she shared, she also suggested a few websites that I just wanted to mention again for parents and kids. I got on them over the weekend and was taking a look at some of the amazing resources. CommonSenseMedia.org is it's a great name for that website as well. It's got a very common sense approach, not only to handling internet safety and taking care of your kids and helping them navigate the web, but it's also a very common sense format to the website. It's very user friendly. So check out commonsensemedia.org. Also check out, now the website is a kind of a mouthful. It is beinternetawesome.withgoogle.com. If you just Google Be Internet Awesome, it'll be your first hit. A lot of great resources for parents in helping kids navigate the internet. And I actually found this about 6 or 7 months ago on that website, beinternetawesome.withgoogle.com. There's actually a video game on there that is really cool for kids around first, second grade through about 6th, 7th grade. I'm not sure how middle schoolers or high schoolers might handle it, although I spent a couple hours playing over the weekend. It's a lot of fun, and the different tasks that you have to solve, the different levels, are things like maintaining a secure password. And it's not just how do you maintain a secure password. You've got a little robot that you navigate around, and there's this bad guy, this fox, who's trying to steal your password. And you've got to figure out ways to set secure passwords so he can't steal your password. Reporting cyberbullies, being a responsible, respectful digital citizen yourself. Some really cool different things in these different levels. I was really enjoying the game. So you might want to check out those two websites, commonsensemedia.org and beinternetawesome.withgoogle.com. Again, if you just Google Be Internet Awesome, it'll be that first hit that comes up. And to help you with this new journey that we're all on this morning, we're joined by a leader in our homeschooling program, iLead Exploration. Exploration is the name of our homeschooling program. Amber mentioned earlier this morning that, learning can happen in very dynamic ways from home. And our Exploration team is really fantastic about tapping into a huge variety of ways of helping kids learn and grow at their pace and according to their needs and interests. iLead Exploration is iLead's homeschooling program that includes over 3,000 students from all over Southern California. And Kendra Bailey currently serves as an educational facilitator, we call them EFs, as well as a studio coordinator for the Exploration Orange County studio in Costa Mesa. Growing up in Riverside, Kendra graduated from Corona High School, home of the Panthers, where she was voted most likely to have blonde hair but a brunette Bitmoji. After graduation, she attended Cal State Fullerton, where she graduated with a BA and a multiple subject teaching credential. She began teaching and later received her master's in education from Cal State San Marcos. She then began teaching at California Virtual Academy and was later promoted to principal. She joined the iLead team a little over 3 years ago as a leader in our homeschool program, as I said, Exploration. Kendra, welcome in. Good morning.
Good morning, Matt.
How are you today?
Beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Well,
I'm feeling great.
Yeah,
You've had an amazing career.
You are impressive.
My goodness.
So I did mention a little bit about you, but Kendra, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Maybe a little bit about your education, your career path. I mentioned that you taught, I believe, at a traditional public school. Then you moved to virtual learning. Tell us a little bit about your career and your personal life a little.
Okay, it has a very eclectic background. I actually started in education with teaching piano lessons. My grandmother was looking to retire. She wanted somebody she could trust to take over. I had been taking lessons from her for about 15 years at that point, and
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, sure. I didn't realize how much I would really enjoy the experience of working with the kids. And so that led to tutoring with some of my piano students, and I started tutoring them in math and reading and writing. Um, that's when I discovered how that, I call it the neutral third party, that non-family member, the impact that you can have with children. And I really loved it. So it sent me in the path of going to school for teaching, and I landed my first job in that 20 to 1 drop way back when in the 90s.
I
Um,
remember that.
that was my first year. I did not have a classroom. I taught out of the teacher's lounge.
Right? And I
And
remember teaching out of the library. Yeah, yeah.
yes, I had a Coke machine and refrigerator. My second graders thought I
Nice.
was the coolest teacher ever.
Well, yeah.
So that was an experience to say the least. After that year, I jumped to fourth grade and taught 9 years with fourth and fifth graders. Absolutely loved teaching. And I never left the classroom because I didn't like teaching anymore. It was more, I had my first child, and the time that I wanted to put into my classroom couldn't be the 100% that I did anymore. And I felt, in my mind, I was failing. So I was looking for something different. And then one of my friend's sisters was looking into some sort of alternative schooling for her son and reached out to both of us for some feedback. That happened to be California Virtual Academy.
Okay.
And after looking into it for her, I thought, oh my gosh, this could be a great thing for me and potentially for my son. I would love to have a different option for him. So I started into this independent study virtual academy world with the intention of learning it myself for a couple of years and potentially homeschooling my son, which I did for a very short time with him. It ended up not being the best model for him. He had some underlying, just some social anxiety and some OCD, and it heightened considerably in that model. He needed to have that ability to get out and work through some of his anxieties and some of his tendencies. But I loved the model and helped with Kava. I was there for 13 years and really helped grow their in-person program, which led me to iLead. And with iLead Exploration, they were bridging the hybrid model of an independent study homeschool program to having some in-person opportunities that were through the school with their EFs and the credentialed teachers, not just a third-party independent learning center. But the need was for somebody to run it. With my experience with Kava, it was a beautiful opportunity for me to transition and come run the Orange County Learning Studio.
Absolutely. And we are so blessed to have you. You know, you mentioned the word love a lot of times as you talked about your educational background. And I think it's important to hit on, Kendra, you really do love what you do. I've worked with literally thousands of educators over the last 25 years, and I don't know that I've met another educator that truly loves working with kids as much as you do. So you mentioned the new role that you have with us here at iLead, and you serve you serve two really important roles, right? You're an EF,
Right.
you're an educational facilitator for our exploration program, but you also run that learning studio, right? So let's talk a little
Correct.
bit about that. First of all, what is an EF? Because it's the homeschooling in California, and especially in our exploration program, isn't just a parent or guardian at home teaching their kids and then just faxing in work samples, right? There's a personal connection with a credentialed teacher. Tell us about the role of an EF and what your responsibility is with your homeschool families.
Right. This is, I think, one of the most commonly misunderstood roles within the independent study homeschool charter land is what do these credentialed teachers do with these families? So each charter has a different name. Some of them call them ESs, educational support.
Okay.
We are educational facilitator. The title doesn't matter. The role stays the same. We're all bound by the same laws. And within iLead Exploration, there are very specific California laws regarding collecting samples and also monitoring the work that's completed. But the biggest thing is we are the ones in charge, if you will, of helping the parents with literally everything they do at home, from curriculum decisions to student work to basic classroom management, if you will. Even Amber had mentioned, even at a 6-to-1 ratio, you're at a much better classroom ratio, and there's a lot less management, but those are their children. So there's this role of wearing two hats now. I'm mom or dad, but I'm also the teacher at home. We help navigate every part of that process. And one of the things that is really wonderful about it is we have families that have been on our roster for years. I have some I'm going on my third year with them. There's these beautiful relationships that build. I go watch the kids at their performances. We do FaceTime meetings when they're sick in case we can't meet in person, such as now. And it is so awesome to see how excited the kids are to show me what they've done, to show me what they're learning, to show me their learning space, where their desk is, wherever it is that they might be doing all their awesome educational adventures. So we are that legal support, if you will, behind the scenes to help guide those parents. So if they ever have questions, we can be there to provide them answers.
I would argue you're also excellence support.
Oh, I like that.
Well, you guys do step in and help families go deeper when you notice that your learners have special needs, whether they need to be scaffolded for special needs purposes, or kids that need to go deeper or farther in an area. You're there to provide that kind of support.
And it's interesting because I remember during some of the legislation challenges last year that there was a lot of concern that these that parents are out there on their own making their own decisions. And the way you just described it is exactly was it my experience. 13 how long ago 15 years ago and it's even better today how we work with and monitor and support and train the parents. So the scene you described seems to be very consistent with the vast majority of the way programs like this are implemented, and it's just so beautiful to see the way it works out for the families. And then when there's families who have challenges, who aren't able to meet the bar of excellence, you're able to catch that, right?
Correct. That, I have to say, like I said, I taught almost 10 years before I transitioned into, this is like 20 some odd years now in education. But all those years in the classroom, I can tell you who my students were. I can say their names. I can picture their faces. But I think as all teachers, there's those 10, 20, 30 that stick out, like, oh, yeah, there's that kid, there's that kid. But in this setting, I know more about these students than I have with ever any class in my past. The connection and the ability to lend support to the families on all levels, whether it's a scaffolding or going beyond, is so much deeper. It's so much richer. I can have a parent ask me, he's really excelling in math. What do you think we should do? He's a kindergartner, and I can have that conversation with them and say, well, you know what? I don't think he's quite emotionally ready to dive deeper quite yet into the sense of let's go on to first grade and second grade, but let's take what he's learned in kindergarten and let's build his problem-solving skills and his critical thinking. Let's do this in a different way. And to be able to really personalize and reach the needs of the families, I can give you very specifics about every single learner on my class list, which I don't think I would be able to say with a traditional classroom environment.
Well, the multi-year looping, staying with the same kids for several years in a row is a really beautiful
hugely
thing.
Powerful.
Yeah.
It's great for those relationships. So that role of an EF is really dynamic, and it's funny, even though the families are doing most of the curriculum and things like that, you guys really do work hard. And then on top of that, Kendra, you're also the coordinator of one of our learning studios. So tell us about that. What's the studio like? What goes on there? Who comes to the studio? Is it just kind of come in when you want, or how does that all work?
How does that all work? So the Learning Studio is a hybrid version of independent study. What has come across with a lot of families over the years is they love the ability to personalize the learning, but really want to give their children a sense of community. And in other learning centers that are maybe privately owned or run by businesses, they run classroom cycles. So it's a 6-week cycle, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a semester, but then when the class is over, the kids leave and they start another one. Well, at the studio, because we are sponsored, if you will, through iLead Exploration, we are the school's learning center. That's what we really spend a lot of time doing, is building a sense of community. So we have students who come on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's a 2-day-a-week program for 4 hours, 3 of which are actual classroom time, 1 of which is a lunch break and recess break. And they have an opportunity to get lessons taught to them in social studies with a literacy approach and STEM from our credentialed EFs. So these are EFs who have volunteered and want to teach here. So there's a huge passion behind what we do, as well as the ability to offer in a classroom environment what might be hard to do at home. The messy projects, the lots of materials things, the social interaction, groups, partner work, doing things inside, outside, and just having a lot of those project-based, hands-on, experiential learning that we can do in a classroom. So it's not too much in the sense it's 2 days a week, but it's just enough for our learners to be able to connect and have that opportunity to do the hands-on learning. At the same time, they are completing work that can be used as a work sample when they do their meetings with their EF, and that way they can demonstrate what they've completed. They can do a project. We encourage presentations. It's just a really wonderful opportunity for kids to get together and not feel isolated. Some families are really looking for that. Some find it in other ways. Some, it's not such a big priority. So we're able to hit a niche of families who are really looking for this. We have about 75 learners who attend this year. I'm anticipating somewhere between 100 and 110 next year when we start in the fall, hopefully. Wow. So it was a program when I started 2.5 years ago that had 10 kids. So we've made some incredible growth.
Yes,
so
you have.
I'd like to think we're doing something right.
Seems like it.
But we really get to take the input of the parents and try and hit something that they have a say in and be able to be a part of, and really hit student interest as well.
So really doing what iLead Schools does across our network, which is designing a wide variety and a huge spectrum of educational experiences for the different needs of our different kids. We're talking this morning with Kendra Bailey, homeschool veteran and leader. We do have to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll be asking Kendra about what we can do to help set up a functional system at home for our kids now that we're all homeschooling families. We'll be right back. You're listening to SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers, with your hosts Matt Watson and Amber Raskin on your hometown station, KHTS.
Your hometown station.
Our news team at KHTS is constantly working to keep you informed. If you want the latest and greatest information on the Santa Clarita Valley, just sign up for the KHTS newsletter. SCV News delivered directly to your email inbox every weekday by 5 p.m. and a special weekend edition on Sundays. All it takes is an email address and you're set. Go to hometownstation.com to register.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
In response to LA County's stay-at-home mandate to prevent the spread of coronavirus, Reyes Winery, located on Sierra Highway in nearby Santa Clarita, will be providing pickup-only services on Saturdays and Sundays from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. All other services during the week and on the weekends will be temporarily suspended. Reyes Winery cares about the health and well-being of our community. Go to reyeswinery.com for more information or call 661-268-1865. That's 268-1865.
At SCVI, we don't just prepare your child for the real world. We empower them to imagine and build the world they want for themselves. Our tuition-free TK-12 charter school combines project-based learning with extracurriculars from robotics to theater to sports to give your child boundless opportunities to explore who they are. Located just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley, SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in the area. For enrollment information, including open enrollment options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org.
Okay, who wants clean air in your home? Vote for clean air.
Hey, Ned, what are you doing? Running for office?
No, but with Pacific Air's new air scrubbers, people can finally have clean air in their home. We'll save their lungs, save their health, and maybe
Don't say it, Ned.
help Grandma breathe easier.
Aw, I gotta call my grandma.
Sometimes I think Ned is too enthusiastic.
But we'd all like to breathe cleaner air.
Mark Schneider and daughter Kaylee for Pacific Air.
With all the talk lately about staying safe and breathing cleaner air,
Pacific Air's special air scrubbers can clean your home's air so you can worry less and breathe easier.
and with easy financing, we can install air scrubbers in your heating and air system in just one day. We think you'll say,
Wow! That was refreshing.
When you want the best, call Pacific Air.
Get new air scrubbers for your home today from Pacific Air. Go to pacair.com for details. That's PACAIRE.com. Remember, without the E, it's just air.
You see so much when you look at your child. A creative spirit that surprises you every day. Curiosity that develops into exploring unique passions. A little leader growing every day to discover who they are, what they love, and how they can make their mark on the world. At SCVI, we see those same amazing things. Our tuition-free K-12 charter school gives your child boundless opportunities to think critically and imagine freely, with a customized learning program built around each individual student. As iLead's founding school, SCVI combines an immersive approach to traditional subject learning with extracurricular activities including STEAM, robotics, theater, music, and sports. SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in Santa Clarita, with a 10-year proven track record of graduates excelling at top universities. And we're in your backyard, just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley in Castaic. For enrollment information or to learn more about our program, including homeschool options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org. iLead Schools, free to think, inspired to lead.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
Finding the right lawyer can be a challenge, but in Santa Clarita, there's no need to search when there's Hacker Law Group, Santa Clarita's premier litigation firm. Jeffrey Hacker has represented celebrities, financial institutions, accident victims, real estate developers, realtors, contractors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals and companies with their legal challenges. Mr. Hacker is one of Santa Clarita's leaders, consistently listed as one of our most influential. When everything is on the line and you need legal counseling, visit hackerlawgroup.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 on the FM dial and 1220 AM. I'm Matt Watson with Amber Raskin, and this is SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. We're speaking with Kendra Bailey, homeschool guide and leader. All right, Kendra, so we were talking earlier before the break about your kids and how you're kind of handling all these changes. Your students are all homeschoolers, the students that you work with. But things are changing for them pretty significantly as well. It's not just we've been homeschooling and same as usual, because your programs include a lot of gathering, a lot of getting together. You talked about the studio and how you have upwards of 100 kids coming into the studio. So you're having to make adjustments during this time at the studio as well, aren't you?
Correct. Most families have some sort of getting together arranged on a weekly basis. And whether it's a park day or a co-op group for a science experiment or a class that they take through a vendor or coming to the studio, I can't think of honestly one family who doesn't leave their home to go do learning. So this has been still a huge adjustment. This is not a typical homeschooling environment by any sense whatsoever. So there's been a lot of modifications to all of those in-person learning opportunities to going to virtual, going to Zoom links and Skype sessions and things like that. So it has been very challenging, and this is not typical homeschooling.
Yeah, and that's one thing that really impressed me when I first started working with your program is, oftentimes, at least those of us that were educated in the traditional public system, we think that homeschool kids really don't get that interaction, but I'm surprised at the tremendous amount of interaction that our homeschoolers get with the Exploration program. Now, I invited you on today because not only are you that homeschool expert, the EF, the one that runs the studio, but you've got a terrific combination of three things. You are that expert who supports homeschooling families. You homeschooled your own kids at various points in their school journey, and now you're in the exact same position as many of our listeners, having your kids enrolled at the local public school and suddenly and unwittingly finding them back home for distance learning with you. So let's talk first about your role as a mom. How are you handling things now that your kids are at home? You've still got to juggle work. You've got to figure out how to make the shift for your families that you work with, but then you've also got your kids at home that you need to supervise, because like many of us, they're there, and you've got to work from home, and you've got to supervise them. Kendra, how are you handling that?
That is a really good question,
Well,
because
thank you.
the other mix of this is not only are the children home, the husband is home too.
Which can be a significant challenge, can't it?
It is our whole home dynamic, how my typical day looks when I'm working from home, how his day might work when he has a work from home day is completely thrown out the window.
Kendra, I don't know if you heard that, but that sound in the background was our entire listening audience just mumbling to themselves going, "Oh, you have no idea."
Right. It's in part, so I think honestly the biggest adjustment I had to make is realizing what we have done before is not what we're doing anymore. We have a new normal that we have had to establish, and to have that patience and understanding that we are all adjusting through this, and that I do work from home and my husband does work from home sometimes. The kids don't. And realizing their schedule has been flipped upside down in more ways than even mine has. And really putting that into perspective and giving them the grace and patience and time for all of us to adjust to this change. And that all those all too familiar words of, I'm bored, what do I do now? I want to go see a friend. And just having literally all last week, we spent a lot of time of just having some very real conversations about what our home is going to look like now. What works for us, what doesn't. I have a 6th grader and a 9th grader, so we can have probably, more adult-level conversations. But as adults ourselves, my husband and I talked a lot about how we have to realize this is probably a bigger change for them than for us. And to kind of set that patience in place and be the model and the example for how we're going to adjust in our house all together all the time now.
Yeah, communication and developing those common understandings is so important. If we just kind of let this happen, it's going to take over really quickly. Now, I thought it was really interesting because I don't know if you know this, Kendra, but I follow you on social media. And our school's educational focus is project-based learning. And I've been watching, at least last week, how your kids right away started attacking this. Now, I don't know if it was by your kids' design or by yours, but your kids have been involved in some pretty cool projects this past week. Can you talk a little bit about the different things that your kids have been doing around the house that don't necessarily have to do with a chemistry textbook and answering the questions at the end of the chapter?
Yeah, one of the things that I've really learned being a part of iLead is really embracing the idea of project-based learning and, in many cases, learner-led learning. And as a teacher coming from a traditional classroom, that kind of flips the model. But I realized in this situation, so many things are out of my kids' control that giving them a chance to have a little bit of say in what they're doing would probably really help us get through this. And so we sat down and talked about as a family, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to learn? And what are some things around the house that need to be done? Can we combine the two? And my son will be driving. He'll get his permit in September. we have his grandmother's car here that's been sitting for a while, and we all know that some work needs to be done before he'll be able to take it on the road. So it became a great learning experience. We all sat down and found YouTube videos about how to change the oil, check the brakes, how to do an engine cleaning, do a transmission fluid change, and he's been learning about it, determining what tools he needs, talking to my husband about where to go and what to get, and then arranging to actually do the work in the driveway. And it's been a really cool learning experience. Not always perfectly smooth, but he's walked away with there's been a lot of pride, just a lot of, look what I did. I can do this. I tackled a giant piece of machinery, and it looks great and runs well.
So you mentioned learning. He's obviously learning. I'm sorry, Kendra. He's obviously learning a lot about cars, but I'm sure he's also learning about problem solving, communication, working as a team, some really important stuff that's going to serve him as he goes forward. But do you find that he's falling behind on his quote-unquote schoolwork?
No, not at all. I think there has to be an adjustment with the mindset and how we look at what learning looks like at home. And Amber had mentioned earlier that the time you use at home doesn't need to be the 6 to 8 hours that our kids are typically in a traditional school.
Right.
Learning takes place in so many different ways, and it doesn't have to be through a textbook. The textbook isn't always going to be the best delivery of the problem solving.
Can I just add, it's probably the least effective at this point, and I want to point out why. Because when textbooks began, it was when books were really our most progressive form of technology. So when we started using textbooks in classrooms, books were rare. And books were something that somebody would read and then read out to other people. That's how the current lecture and classroom began. So now that you can print your own book faster than you can read one almost, it's no longer the most effective way. We just default to it because we've always done it that way. There's much more easily digested forms of information, and it might be text, it might be video, it might be many other things, but that's a really important point for people to understand, because it's something that is a big mindset shift for us as a society.
So, Kendra, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, but I also know you've got some valuable resources that our families could really benefit from. Do you think we could get you to stick around for one more break? Can you hang with us about another 10, 15 more minutes?
I sure can. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Hang on, Kendra. And you too, listeners, hang on. We've got to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be back real soon. You're listening to SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. This is Matt Watson and Amber Raskin on your hometown station, KHTS.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families, individuals, and those experiencing homelessness. At Santa Clarita Grocery, out of every dollar donated, a full 99 cents goes directly to the needs being addressed. As an all-volunteer-led organization, we operate on a 1% overhead, receiving no government funding for our operations in the community, resulting in us being one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. If you're looking to support the good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery. What is donated is specifically kept in the Santa Clarita Valley, helping over 3,000 families, including 5 other community charities. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or visit us on social media or call us at 425-7575. That's 425-7575.
Hi, Kirk Stinson here with Plumbing by Kirk, your hometown plumber, here to let you know that it's sometimes more cost-effective to have Plumbing by Kirk fix it than to have your husband wrestle with those plumbing problems. And if you play your cards right, you might not have to let him know that we were even there. We invite you to visit our website for free plumbing advice at plumbingbykirk.com or give us a call, 263-6519. That's 263-6519.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Plumbing by Kirk.
At SCVI, we don't just prepare your child for the real world. We empower them to imagine and build the world they want for themselves. Our tuition-free TK-12 charter school combines project-based learning with extracurriculars from robotics to theater to sports to give your child boundless opportunities to explore who they are. Located just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley, SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in the area. For enrollment information, including open enrollment options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org.
During this unprecedented time, Dunkin' has continually focused on the health and safety of their employees and, of course, you, the customer. Dunkin's committed to being there for you, serving in the safest way possible, following all national, state, and local guidelines. Here in Santa Clarita, Dunkin' has implemented carryout and drive-thru services, in addition to curbside pickup. The Dunkin' in Canyon Country is open from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m., serving guests with carryout and drive-thru services. The Dunkin' on Bouquet Canyon near Lowe's is open from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m. with carryout and curbside pickup. Download the Dunkin' app to pay, order, and accumulate points. Dunkin' is now also available through Grubhub for home and office delivery.
KHTS, your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 and 1220 AM. I'm Matt Watson with Amber Raskin, and this is SCVI Charter School's Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. We're speaking this morning with Kendra Bailey, homeschool guide and leader, and also, just like many of you, unwitting homeschool mom now. So, Kendra, before the break, we were talking about the things that you're doing with your students and also with your children at home. Now I'd like to tap into a little bit to more of that homeschooling experience and expertise. You work as an EF, as we mentioned before, which is an educational facilitator. That means that you are the credentialed expert that supports homeschool families as they educate their kids. Most of our listeners aren't intentional homeschoolers. Some of them are. But what advice would you give to them who all of a sudden a week ago found their kids at home and now they're trying to set up a structure and a schedule and trying to figure things out? You had mentioned for your family you were very proactive. So what advice would you give to our families as they proactively set their new lives up?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think I've said that for every question you've said. But I think the biggest thing is to have grace. Have grace for yourself and grace for your children and patience in realizing this is new for all of you. And realize that your children aren't going to brain dump everything that they've learned this whole year because they're now home and in your hands. And to be rest assured that children are resilient. They will come back from this just like all of us will, and to have that patience. Then with that said, don't be afraid to let your children talk to you about what they'd like to learn. This probably isn't the best time to really embrace homeschooling, dive in, and try and do it like you would do in a traditional format, because this isn't traditional. You're not going to have access to all the same things that my families would normally be doing in their homeschooling day.
Okay.
So I would look at it more with a student-child-led approach that fits within the family dynamic, and maybe you just target interests for a little bit. It's okay if you're not doing math every day at 1 o'clock for fifth period like you would normally do. It's okay. They're not going to forget. You can allow some time for adjusting and settling and creating your new normal now. I think that would be the biggest thing to embrace and to not panic. Like I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine I've known since high school. She's a teacher herself. She now has her 6th grade daughter at home. We have children that are very close in age, and she was panicking. She doesn't want to do anything I've suggested to her. She says, this is too easy. This is silly. I've already done this before. I'm a 6th grader now. You know, very common things we've all heard. And I said to her, well, what does she want to do? You don't have to have her do a normal day. Ask her what she wants to do. I got a text back that night. She wants to learn about oceans, and not about the stuff in the plastic, because she's already learned about that in class, but she wants to do like marine biology. I said, perfect. Go look for some cool opportunities for that. All of a sudden, being at home wasn't so bad. We have an interest level, and she says, well, what do I do for her for math? I said, nothing right now. It's okay. Just let it happen. It'll get there, but this is not what you guys usually do. So allow some time for it to settle, and then let your child help you with this. Dictating, I think, everything to them at this point isn't going to work very well. They've already been told they can't go to school, they can't see their friends, they can't go to the park, they can't do this. Let's try and give them something they can do. And this is something they can do. They can choose what they'd like to learn about, read about, Skype with a friend about, whatever it is. So I honestly think that's a big thing we need to kind of allow a little bit of choice with our kids right now.
That is 3 pieces of fantastic advice: grace, patience, and flexibility. That is fantastic. We've only got a couple of more minutes, Kendra, but do you have any secret tips or tricks of the trade that you could suggest for our families?
I would say, like Amber mentioned before, don't be afraid to not use a textbook. Everything doesn't have to be done through a book. Go out there and look for experiences. Find a kit. Find a nature walk. Look for an opportunity for learning, not for the textbook to tell you what to do or a workbook. This is a great chance for your kids to be good problem solvers and to do something hands-on. And we all have had this wonderful gift of time given to us of not being in a hurry. We don't have to race to the baseball practices, soccer, dance lessons, voice classes, whatever it is. So we now have this time. We can sit down and make that cool volcano that your kid has had a kit for since last Christmas. So I dug those all out of our closets. We have them sitting on our dining room table, all those cool things that looked amazing at Christmas, but nobody's touched since then because we, quote, don't have time. So I really think it's an opportunity to embrace all of the things that we always say we don't have time for. Make the homemade Play-Doh. Sit down and do it. If it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. That's part of learning. Try it again and try something different. So I really think we just have to kind of shift the mindset, like Amber said too, of just embracing how it can look so different and still be so amazing.
Definitely. Very, very important. Well, Kendra, we are out of time for this segment. I do want to thank you for your experience, your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We've got to take another short commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Kristina Debray, a licensed marriage and family therapist, about how you can help your family successfully manage this time of quarantine. We're also going to be talking about what to do when your child has that ultimate meltdown. You're listening to SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley's Homeschooling Answers. I'm Matt Watson with Amber Raskin on your hometown station, KHTS.
At SCVI, we don't just prepare your child for the real world. We empower them to imagine and build the world they want for themselves. Our tuition-free TK-12 charter school combines project-based learning with extracurriculars from robotics to theater to sports to give your child boundless opportunities to explore who they are. Located just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley, SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in the area. For enrollment information, including open enrollment options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Garcia. With the new safe-at-home orders that went into effect, many of us here in Santa Clarita have questions regarding restaurants, home delivery, and pickup. Local restaurant dining rooms have been ordered to close. However, home delivery and pickup, including curbside service, is fine and is encouraged. There are many delivery services in the SCV, including Grubhub, Postmates, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and WeGo. Many restaurants and these delivery services are offering specials during this time. Please go to hometownstation.com and click on the red coronavirus banner. Then go to restaurants. There you'll find a comprehensive list of what our local restaurants are offering in the way of takeout, delivery, and curbside pickup. Continue to follow the safe-at-home order and stay safe. Let's work together to flatten the curve.
KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 FM Santa Clarita. It's 10 o'clock. Time for national news on KHTS.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and the Trump administration, led by Secretary Mnuchin of the Treasury, they have been talking and having intense discussions all morning long. Those discussions have branched out to include more members of the Senate Democratic Caucus, including Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, who I just caught up with, and he told me they are making progress in their talks. Now, they're unlikely to reach a deal by the time the Senate does try to cast that procedural vote to advance the bill. That's expected around 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Democrats are suggesting that they will vote to prevent that from moving forward because they're saying they want more time to negotiate. According to Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, they are, quote, very close to a deal. Now, this bill, as you mentioned, roughly $2 trillion split up into a variety of measures, including providing direct payments to Americans, also providing assistance to a number of struggling industries, in addition to small businesses and industries like the airlines and the like. But there are there have been a number of disagreements about how some of that language should be structured, particularly money going to those industries, whether or not the secretary should have as much power in determining who gets that money or not. Those are the types of discussions that have been happening intensely over the past day, but the emotions are flaring on the Senate floor. There have been contentious exchanges between members. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell accusing Democrats of acting recklessly. Tom Cotton of Arkansas had some choice words for Democrats, as well as Senator Susan Collins of Maine also criticizing the Democrats' handling of this. But Democrats are arguing that they are trying to push for the best bill possible because they realize that this is probably the only chance that they will have to pass a bill before they all leave town amid the growing concerns about the coronavirus epidemic and it hitting here in the United States Senate after Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky announced that he had tested positive. Now, at the same time, beyond the question is if and when the Senate does reach a deal, and if that does pass as soon as today, which is still possible, what will happen in the House? The Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, is planning to introduce her own measure later today, but the question still remains whether she's using that as a way to push the Senate to move closer to her demands and whether the House will ultimately pass the Senate's bill or if they move forward on their own course. And if they do that, Brianna, that will only lead to more protracted negotiations and an uncertain outcome amid this critical moment where a lot of Americans and the U.S. economy is waiting for Congress to respond. Brianna.
All right, Manu, thank you so much for that report from Capitol Hill. And now to the epicenter here in the U.S., New York. New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio warning that hospitals could run out of needed supplies as soon as next week. And Governor Andrew Cuomo is urging President Trump to use the Defense Production Act that he's already signed but is not using to direct businesses on how to produce and price supplies.
We have New York manufacturers who are really stepping up to the plate.
At SCVI, we don't just prepare your child for the real world. We empower them to imagine and build the world they want for themselves. Our tuition-free TK-12 charter school combines project-based learning with extracurriculars from robotics to theater to sports to give your child boundless opportunities to explore who they are. Located just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley, SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in the area. For enrollment information, including open enrollment options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org.
Sweet, salty, tastiest, bacon and pancakiest. Big yawns are okay, yummy syrups, yes way. Butter pecan, blueberry, old-fashioned strawberry. Never empty coffee pot. Mom says it hits the spot. Almonds are the fluffiest, Dad's hugs the scruffiest. Scrambled eggy, pepper shaky, orange juicy, wide awake. Stuffed French toastiest, waffles with the mustiest. Buttermilky, smooth, silky, tastes great. Love on a plate.
IHOP, everything you love about breakfast.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families, individuals, and those experiencing homelessness. At Santa Clarita Grocery, out of every dollar donated, a full 99 cents goes directly to the needs being addressed. As an all-volunteer-led organization, we operate on a 1% overhead, receiving no government funding for our operations in the community, resulting in us being one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. If you're looking to support the good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery. What is donated is specifically kept in the Santa Clarita Valley, helping over 3,000 families, including 5 other community charities. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or visit us on social media or call us at 425-7575. That's 425-7575.
Hi, Kirk Stinson here with Plumbing by Kirk, your hometown plumber, here to let you know that it's sometimes more cost-effective to have Plumbing by Kirk fix it than to have your husband wrestle with those plumbing problems. And if you play your cards right, you might not have to let him know that we were even there.
We invite you to visit our website for free plumbing advice at plumbingbykirk.com or give us a call, 263-6519. That's 263-6519.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Plumbing by Kirk.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
The following is sponsored programming and does not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson with Amber Raskin, and you're listening to Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I do want to remind our listeners, for a lot of us, this time can be a real difficult time when looking for food. There's quite a few people in our community that are dependent on others to help meet their nutritional needs. So I do want to remind our listeners, all SCVI and iLead schools, SCVI here in Castaic and our iLead schools in Agua Dulce and the Lancaster area, all of them are still serving breakfasts and lunches. I know we're a little bit more restrictive these days with when we can and cannot get out. I did find it interesting, though, Amber, with the governor and county officials saying that only essential businesses would remain open. One of those essential businesses that they listed was schools.
Yeah, I was just reading that specific thing, actually, that schools for food, which you're talking about now,
Correct.
but also for the purposes of providing distance learning.
Right.
So, like, that's what we're doing now, right? That is absolutely one of the essential businesses. I was reading KHTS's list that they linked to, and there's so many more than I had realized, including plumbing and hardware
Right.
stores. I mean, all of the things that we need to do to, like, I don't know, stay alive and, keep a roof over our head. Those are all very essential.
Right. You wonder, why is Home Depot still open? But if your toilet's backed up,
Yeah.
you know why.
Exactly.
So, like I said, children from ages 0 to 18 can still get their breakfasts and lunches at any iLead school campus, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Now, in Agua Dulce, it is 10 to noon, but that's any child from 0 to 18 years can stop by and pick up 2 meals every Monday through Friday. That's breakfast and lunch, and you don't have to be enrolled in our schools. I know that other area schools are doing the same thing, so do check the local school district websites if one of our campuses is not convenient for you. It's more convenient to go to a local district school. It's not all of the campuses, but do, like I said, do check the district websites. Also, for those of you over 18, Santa Clarita Grocery is still open and still helping to provide needs. Santa Clarita Grocery over there on Center Point Parkway, on Center Point Parkway, they're there to help provide your grocery needs. If you're hungry and need, you can come in with your list. You've got to register ahead of time with them, but you come in with their list and drop it off, and they will get your groceries for you.
That's excellent.
Also, at the Santa Clarita Senior Center, that's something that I was speaking with actually the chairman of the board at the Senior Center over the weekend about how difficult it can be now that we're not allowed to gather, because so many of our seniors depend on Bella Vita, I believe it's called, the Senior Center. They are still feeding the seniors their lunch. If you've already signed up and you typically go to the Senior Center for your lunches, you can still drive up and pick up your lunch. Unfortunately, you're not able to eat there in the beautiful dining hall that they've got, but you can still drive up and pick up a meal. If you haven't registered for that and you're a senior citizen and you'd like to, call the Senior Center at 259-9444. 259-9444, and you can register to drop by and pick up lunch. They also have a delivery. The Meals on Wheels delivery system is still operating, and if that's something that you need meals delivered to you, they will still do that. You can, again, call 259-9444 to register for that. And if you need any other kind of help, you say, okay, well, I'm good with food, but I really do need some resources on, how I can get some help getting outside a couple times a day, or how can I get help with with my finances or getting to the bank, call the Senior Center. They're there to help you out with just about every need you could possibly have. Again, 259-9444. I also know that local grocery stores have designed special hours just for seniors to shop, which I think is great. Well, since schools have closed, we've been here to help you and your family cope with this new situation, and now we're excited to welcome in someone who not only can offer tremendous insight and support with dealing with this new paradigm, Kristina Debray is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California, she's got a private practice here in Valencia. I want to introduce her when we come back. Unfortunately, we do have to take a quick break, but we will get to Kristina as soon as we come back. You are listening to your hometown station, KHTS, with Matt Watson and Amber Raskin's Eye on the Valley's Homeschooling Answers.
At CVI, we don't just prepare your child for the real world. We empower them to imagine and build the world they want for themselves. Our tuition-free TK-12 charter school combines project-based learning with extracurriculars from robotics to theater to sports to give your child boundless opportunities to explore who they are. Located just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley, SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in the area. For enrollment information, including open enrollment options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org.
During this unprecedented time, Dunkin' has continually focused on the health and safety of their employees and, of course, you, the customer. Dunkin's committed to being there for you, serving in the safest way possible, following all national, state, and local guidelines. Here in Santa Clarita, Dunkin' has implemented carry-out and drive-thru services, in addition to curbside pickup. The Dunkin' in Canyon Country is open from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m., serving guests with carry-out and drive-thru services. The Dunkin' on Bouquet Canyon near Lowe's is open from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m. with carry-out and curbside pickup. Download the Dunkin' app to pay, order, and accumulate points. Dunkin' is now also available through Grubhub for home and office delivery.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families, individuals, and those experiencing homelessness. At Santa Clarita Grocery, out of every $1 donated, a full 99 cents goes directly to the needs being addressed. As an all-volunteer-led organization, we operate on a 1% overhead, receiving no government funding for our operations in the community, resulting in us being one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. If you're looking to support the good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery. What is donated is specifically kept in the Santa Clarita Valley, helping over 3,000 families, including 5 other community charities. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or visit us on social media or call us at 425-7575. That's 425-7575.
With the safe disposal of waste from our homes in the Santa Clarita Valley, Chiquita Canyon Landfill is able to create enough green energy to power 10,000 homes each year. So you can feel good that the waste from your home in the SCV is helping create a clean energy source and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Chiquita Canyon Landfill is our partner in sustainable living.
Chiquita Canyon is helping lead the way to a greener future.
City Councilman Bob Keller here. Keep it tuned to 98.1 FM and AM 1220 KHTS, hometownstation.com, for the latest information regarding COVID-19. KHTS will have both national and local news and information during this unprecedented time. For more, go to the KHTS website or the KHTS Facebook page. KHTS is also available online in the free app for iPhone and Android. Continue to social distance, only going out if it's absolutely necessary, and continue to check on friends and family. With your help, we will flatten the curve and come through this stronger than ever. Thank you.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson with Amber Raskin, and you're listening to Eye on the Valley's Homeschooling Answers. As I was mentioning before the break, we've got a very special guest joining us on the phone this morning, and I'd like to bring her in. She's quite an amazing person with an incredible backstory. Kristina Debray is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California with a private practice here in Valencia. She's a graduate of Pepperdine University who did her undergraduate work at CSUN. Go Matadors. She furthered her studies in EMDR, trauma, complex trauma, phobias, performance enhancement, attachment disorders, motivation, self-harm, suicide prevention, grief, chronic and terminal medical illness, child and adolescent intervention, and effective parenting techniques. She's been quite busy. Cristina is known for her commitment to patient advocacy and is an active community philanthropist through her consulting, speaking, fundraising, and event planning. Cristina has more than 18 years of experience speaking, and she regularly speaks and consults with medical professionals, organizations, patients, schools, parents, and business professionals. She focuses on helping individuals build, mend, and develop healthy relationships and authentic connections with others and with themselves. Cristina believes that the core of every working relationship should be built on trust, authenticity, and quality. She brings a deep value and care for the patient experience, believing that change is made through relationships that are trusting, caring, and safe. Good morning, Cristina. Welcome in.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's funny, as I even before I started to introduce you, just kind of talking about you before the break, I started getting text messages about people that want your phone number. People need help out there, which is why we brought you in. Before we get too deep into it, though, I want to start with what you do. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your practice? Where are you? Who do you work with? What do you specialize in? Or do you just kind of run the gamut because you've studied quite a bit?
Okay. Well, my name is Kristina Debray. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. I am a EMDR, which is short for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing certified
Which is quite a
therapist.
mouthful. What is that?
Yes. So that's all. I'm happy to talk about that. Do you want me to just transition into talking about that briefly?
What? No. We can get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
Keep talking about your practice. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, it's okay. So I specialize really in trauma and grief in my practice. My two subspecialties are medical illnesses and sexual trauma, but I see a wide range of individuals in my practice. On the, the more easier level, it's people who, hey, I have an anxiety about driving in the car and I need EMDR so that I can drive again. On the other end of it, I work with people with dissociative identity disorder and borderline personality disorder and so on and so forth. So I do really see a wide range. I work with kids, teens, and adults.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned EMDR. Can you kind of sum that up in a nutshell? I was looking it up over the weekend, and it does seem pretty deep and heavy.
So, yeah, it is a little bit difficult to sum up, but essentially EMDR is an 8-phase protocol. And what we know in EMDR is that our minds already have a natural information processing system, right? So think of it like a freeway. Okay, so as information is coming in, the cars are coming on the freeway, and then they're driving to their destination, right, which is where they're going to live, right?
Right.
And so what happens is if a lot of overwhelming information or too much information comes in at one time, you get traffic jams, car accidents, right?
Yeah.
Lanes can be shut down. It makes travel difficult, right?
Yep.
And then cars can get stuck there, right?
Yep.
So that's how information can be in our brains, is that as information's coming in, if it's too much, too soon, too overwhelming, then things get stuck, right? So what EMDR does is it capitalizes on your brain's natural information processing, and it takes components and breaks it down into individual memory components, such as the smell of something, or the specific emotion, or where you're feeling that experience in your body, and uses this 8-phase protocol to help clients reprocess it to get that car going on the freeway and off to its destination.
Wow,
So-
that is quite a metaphor, but it totally makes sense to me. At least as an educator, we see how kids process information and how we can get those traffic jams. So you're kind of like the Caltrans cleanup crew when things normally flow like they do on the highway, but sometimes when we do get traffic jams or lane closures, you help to get in there and unclog things and get those thoughts and memories going where they need to go.
Cristina, does it like you're kind of? It sounds like, and I'm asking the question, but I'm saying it as a statement. It's like you're reprogramming the triggers, right?
Well, yes. So reprocessing. I explain to my clients, really what we're doing is we're recalibrating the central nervous system to get it to, to get information to flow. So I give, like I'll say, instead of shoving the whole cake in your mouth and trying to eat that, where, then we might be throwing up and having diarrhea and whatever, we're taking small slivers or individual bites so that we can process it, right? We don't want to overload it. Another metaphor is, I don't know if they still have these days, but those coin sorters, like when you were a kid and you had coin sorters, if you put too many coins in it at one time, it jams it, right? And then some of the coins go in the wrong places, right? You have to do one at a time. So one of the things that happens, think of the Saugus shooting or what's going on right now with COVID. Any of these kind of things is so much information that it overloads the information processing system and it engages the stress response. And so things get stuck. And when things get stuck, it causes secondary problems like anxiety, depression, staying in a triggered state of stress. And then you start making choices from that state of stress, and your behavior is influenced by that.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, Cristina, I want to back up a little bit for our listeners. You and I got to know each other last week, and you've got an amazingly inspiring story. And you actually reached out to us with the idea that not only your professional expertise, but your personal story might be able to help our listeners, perhaps even more so than just your clinical expertise. Although we're going to tap into a lot of that as well. So will you share a little bit about your personal story with our audience?
Absolutely. So I was born in 1986 with a genetic condition called cystic fibrosis. So for those who don't know, it is a terminal genetic illness, and it involves a malfunction of a protein which causes the body to produce abnormally thick and sticky mucus. And it is a terminal disease. So it impacts the respiratory tract the worst, the respiratory and digestive tract the worst. So ultimately over time it destroys the lungs, it destroys a lot of other organs, and then the treatments that were given to deal with that often destroy other organs as well, like kidney and liver.
So the treatment itself can also cause damage. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And so when I was born, I was not expected to live past my teenage years. So I was diagnosed at 6 weeks of age. I was transferred to Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, and they told my parents, you'll be lucky if she lives through her teenage years. Wow. And so, and then I basically, at that time, there was nothing to treat the core cause of the disease. It was all just symptom management. Okay. And so I essentially would live in hospitals for 6 to 8 weeks at a time. I'd come out for short periods of time and then go back. And that was my life. And, things just continued to progress. When I was 15, I had enough damage to my pancreas that I became a type 1 diabetic. Oh, wow. So I'm also a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic. And really just in high school, all throughout my life, when I was in high school, my life expectancy was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, my life expectancy was in my 30s. And so I really, I spent more time, thinking about my funeral than thinking about my wedding as a kid. And, wondering who would be there and what it would be like and how I wanted it to be. And so I oftentimes lived in quarantine and isolation in hospital rooms because I was super high risk for infections. I've been through, many years of this. And through it all, really, I poured myself into my education, my training, and I was living in trauma. I had PTSD for over 20 years. I dealt with secondary anxiety and depression. And so, that's what led me to be a mental health professional. And I was able to eradicate my own PTSD diagnosis after 20 years when I discovered EMDR, and I went to find an EMDR therapist. And then in my late 20s, early 30s, I knew, okay, I'm going to die. I was living with my parents. I just wanted to live the best that I could, and that got harder and harder because some days I would just be laying in bed, and just even to get up and go to the bathroom was, too much for me. It felt like running a marathon. So I knew that my only chance at life was to find a clinical research study. And even though that was dangerous, I could either face certain death or maybe death. And so I chose maybe death. And I got into a clinical trial. The first one lasted 3 years, and it didn't improve me, but it kept me stable. And then that was discontinued the week that I opened my own private practice, and I was absolutely devastated. And then that year afterwards, I had just met my husband at that time. I was just unraveling significantly. My health was deteriorating. I was looking for another trial to get in, but nothing was available. And then I was able to get in this trial for a medication called Trikafta, which has since been FDA approved. And during the trial, I didn't know it at the time, but I know now I had the placebo.
Wow.
My husband, he proposed to me. We were not sure I was going to live long enough to see our wedding day. We weren't sure if we should have a wedding. But we continued anyways. We continued to plan a wedding, and we continued to do our best to live the best life that we could. And then on February 5th of 2019, the trial ended, and I got what's called open label. So open label is when you finish the 3-phase clinical trial, but then you are given the drug as a courtesy, and they still continue to monitor you.
Okay.
So within 24 hours, I knew that I had this drug, and it completely changed my life. And even though technically it's not a cure, it eradicated 90% of my symptoms.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so I'm still a type 1 diabetic, but I haven't been in the hospital since starting this medication. I've been able to go off 2/3 of my medications. And so I got married, and yeah.
And celebrated your 34th birthday just last week?
Yes. So
Fantastic.
my 34th birthday was last week. So, I went from, probably not going to live through my teenage years to celebrating my 34th birthday alive and well.
Wow.
And welcome to a pandemic.
Right? Well, first of all, congratulations. And second of all, I want to apologize. I think a spring breeze blew through the studio here because both Amber and our eyes have just started watering quite a bit. What an amazing story.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
your outlook, your mindset is incredible. Like, to live through that kind of trauma your entire life is just... I have a niece that has mitochondria disorder, and she was not expected to live past 4, and she's now 8, and every year is a gift, and we've had to look at her life in the same way that you've had to look at yours. And talking to you as a married adult, Matt was very much understating the tears. It's incredible, and most importantly, what's incredible is your commitment to the quality of your life, no matter how long it is. What a beautiful thing.
Well, definitely. When being told that it's not going to last much longer, and you're working on your college degree and your master's and studying all these different topics, and not just for you, you're doing it so that you can help yourself and help others. So inspiring. So inspiring. So you did mention that you grew up and spent a lot of your childhood, your teenage and early adult years kind of in quarantine. So what periods of time are we talking about? How long were you in the hospital or had to stay at home? Did you have to do, what was school like for you? What was that like?
So I used to go in when I was younger for 6 to 8 weeks at a time. And then when I was 5 years old, so that was starting at 6 weeks of age was when I was diagnosed.
Okay.
So this has been since I was a baby. And I used to go into 6 to 8 weeks at a time, having surgeries, having procedures. And then when I was 5, I got a portacast inserted, which is allows them to access a central line, and I was able to do a lot of treatments at home. So then when I could, I would go to school with my IVs. I mean, just to put this in perspective, every single semester of undergraduate and graduate school, I was hospitalized and doing infusions.
Wow.
Every single semester. And so I would go in, and then I'd come out, and I'd have my infusions, and I'd bring my infusions to school with me. And I would just wear baggy sweatshirts and do what I can. I'd, get my IV going while I was taking final exams.
Wow.
And some people were understanding about it. Some people were not understanding about it because I don't look sick. It's definitely an invisible illness. So unless you see the IV connected to me, and then you're kind of confused, what is that? And that was how I lived my life.
My niece has dealt with that her whole life too, because she wears her food in a backpack that she walks around with. So I don't know. You go to Disneyland and you want to take a picture, and the photographer's like, "Take off your backpack." No, that's keeping her alive. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, it's so interesting how people so quickly judge at first glance. You don't look sick. You don't look handicapped. You don't look this. But get to know me, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
So, so you're going to school. You're going to college. You're doing the things that normal kids do, but unlike normal kids, well, at least up until last week, you had extended periods of time where you had to stay home, where I'm sure you were missing out on a lot of social activities, whether it's sports or school dances and things like that. How did you cope with all that stuff growing up?
It was a challenge. I had a lot of years to learn how to cope with it, and it was different for me at different points in my life, right? So when I was a younger child, the more superficial things were upsetting to me. Like, hey, I used to play soccer, and then I wasn't allowed to play soccer anymore. I wasn't allowed to play any contact sports because of the risk. And so that was really upsetting for me. And so it was grieving, learning how to grieve. And then there's this other piece of it, too, of the trauma of I was undergoing really traumatic medical procedures. So I had PTSD on top of it. So it was a lot of times spending holidays in the hospital, spending birthdays in the hospital, or even when I was at home, just not being well enough to go out, or it was too risky. I mean, every flu season is a danger.
Yeah.
So it's, hey, we don't go to Disneyland for 6 months out of the year, or whatever it is. Being extremely strategic, mastering infection control, learning, how to always sneeze into, the side of your arm, or open doors. I carry gloves with me in my car. I'm that person that's always, not just in this COVID situation, but I'm always using gloves at the gas station. People kind of stare at me like I'm a weird OCD person. It's like, well, it's functional paranoia. Like,
what a great
it
phrase.
could kill me.
Right. So you're darn right I'm a germaphobe. Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about, because you've mentioned some things that a lot of our families are I can't read that. A lot of our families are going through some of the same things that you talked about. What should we do about our wedding? Or, okay, we can't go to Disneyland now, and I love sports, but I can't play right now. It was a little bit different for you because your situation was a little bit more permanent. This is more temporal. I have spoken with people over the last couple of weeks that have canceled or postponed weddings and things like that. So, but when we're talking about families that this is a little bit more temporal for, but no less traumatic, you mentioned that superficial stuff. What tips can we give for kids that are finding themselves all of a sudden?
Like strategies. What strategies did you use when you were stuck at home to stay, sane and to cope with some of the mourning that you were doing for the things you couldn't do? And what do you think would be useful for some of our people at home?
So one of the really important things was to hold space for the grief, for the trauma. A lot of times we want to say, yeah, but it's temporary, or yeah, but everyone else is in your situation. Or we want to say, at least this, at least you live in this nice house, at least we have food. And the problem is that takes away a holding space for the emotions. So what's important is when someone's expressing anger, frustration, sadness, grief, you want to say, I know, it's sad. You're right, it's sad. It's not fair.
So validate.
And you have validate
their feelings.
Don't say but or at least. Just that's it. Let's spend some time being sad about it together.
We talked about empathy on the show last week, and that is so important. When your kids come to you and say, and some of my listeners may have to excuse the phrase, but this is the way it goes down at my house. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, you're right. It does suck.
Yep.
Let's keep moving forward.
Can I ask a question specifically about that? Because I know that being grateful is something that often pulls me out of my sadness about a given situation. So thinking about the things that we do have. And I think that what you said as part of your tip is a very valid point. Don't invalidate the sadness or the trauma that they're going through by focusing on being grateful too soon, I would imagine. But could you elaborate on that distinction a little bit so that we can understand which one is appropriate?
So you always want to do that first, right? And so sometimes what I do when I'm working with kids is I'll set a timer on my phone, right? I'll say, let's spend 5 minutes being really sad and angry about this, right? I'll let that timer go for 5 minutes. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, I'll say, do you think we need another 5 minutes? Or are we okay for now? And then once they get to the point, and let them do that 5 minutes as long as they need to, right? Because you're giving permission.
Okay.
And if you give permission, it typically will go for shorter periods of time than if you tell them not to do it. And then after that, you say, instead of saying, what are you grateful for? Another way to think about it is if you woke up tomorrow with only the things that you were grateful for today, what would you have, right?
Okay.
Because then it helps reframe it, and it's easier to tap into, right?
Yeah, definitely. So important. And, this is where my brain goes because I'm a teacher. How do you feel about also allowing kids to write those feelings down? Do you want to take 10 minutes and go journal about it? Do you want to take a few minutes to just sit down and write it? Or is it more beneficial to talk it out?
So talking and writing isn't necessarily going to make it better, right? Because that actually can sometimes make it worse, right? So doing something more artistic, is there a song that we can listen to that you feel like could represent your sadness?
Oh, interesting.
Giving a hug, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a color in this crayon box that you feel like, represents your anger? Do you want to draw a picture of it, right? So we want to activate the right cortex of the brain.
All right. So that creative side, wow. Okay,
Which,
fascinating.
depending on the person, might be writing. Some people that might feel very creative to them.
But generally speaking, sometimes writing about it can make it worse, so I say it with caution.
Okay.
If you feel like you're writing about it and it makes it feel worse, don't do that. Don't force your kids to write about it if they're, resisting, right? Say, is there a dance that you want to make to share this experience with me? Is there a sound you can make? Is there a chord on the piano or the guitar, or whatever instrument it is?
So there is that
Anything
danger
like
with
that.
writing of kind of taking you deeper into the depression.
I guess the difference would be, as I'm processing what you're saying, is that for young children, they're still learning to write. So it's hard to, it's a very much a left brain activity when you're still learning and practicing the skill. So forcing them to write when that doesn't come so easily to them, you're now adding another complication. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
then,
why whatever's creative to them seems to resonate when you say that to me, because as an adult, writing isn't so hard for me. So writing does help me sometimes, even though I'm not a big writer, because it kind of flows sometimes, depending. But the tip that I'm hearing you say that is so critical is that it needs to be creative, the creative expression of the feeling.
Well, you want to get into that right brain, right?
Yeah.
And you want to engage the parasympathetic nervous system, right? So calm, soothing voice, validation, physical touch. Sometimes when people have trauma, like sexual trauma, they're not going to be calmed by physical touch, like a hug,
right,
or, like a back scratch or something like that. So you want to be mindful of that, but listening to music, taking slow, deep breaths in and out. I call it 7-7-7 breathing. 7 seconds inhale, 7 seconds hold, 7 seconds exhale for 7 times.
Can you say that one more time?
So I call it 7-7-7 breathing. It's a 7-second inhale. So usually I do it with my kids. I'll say, all right, let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I do it with them, right? So then you're doing co-regulation with them. Together as the adult, you are soothing yourself and helping them soothe themselves.
That's great.
Now, I want to shift here a quick second. You talked about how you missed soccer, and, I've got, Amber and I both have high school seniors at home that are really starting to stress as school districts and schools are announcing that our closures are going to last a little bit longer. Our seniors are starting to worry about, well, what about prom? Well, what about graduation?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you used or that you can suggest to our kids about, I guess replacement is the word. If, I'm a baseball player and this is baseball season, but I can't get out and play ball. And that was the most important thing to me. Is there something that I can do to replace that or those social activities? It's my senior year and Friday nights is what it's all about. And now Friday nights are, sorry, Amber, don't be offended, but mom and dad aren't the ones that our kids want to necessarily spend Friday nights with. Are there replacement activities that our kids can do?
So a couple of different things. One is sublimation, right? That's when you kind of take any of this anxious and aggressive energy and funnel it into something productive. It doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's, hey, I'm going to organize my closet, or hey, I'm going to write a book or make a comic book or draw a bunch of pictures. Taking that energy and sublimating it elsewhere at home.
Okay.
Also, something I did for myself and something that I think is important is make a plan for what you want to do when quarantine is over, right?
Okay.
So for me, it was, hey, I'd be in the hospital and I'm going to have a big birthday party, right? So one year I was at, Stanford University Hospital, and it was a really dark year. And it was just lots of tears, lots of crying, lots of grief. And my mom and I sat together and we wrote out a plan to throw a Mad Hatter tea party at the house, right? And we got super detailed, right? Okay. We're having these different stations at the house, and each different room was a different land from Alice in Wonderland. And it got me excited, and it was something that I could look forward to. So create something that you can look forward to when this is all over.
Great idea.
Even my birthday was last week, and then I was going to go to the Magic Castle for dinner. I had bought this gorgeous gown.
Right.
So, I put the gown on and, got my hair and makeup all done, and I'm at home. You can dress up. You can find ways. You have to tap into that inner child part of ourselves that can play fantasy and make believe. And, life goes on. And, the nice thing about this is that we're all in the situation together right now. So it's not like you get to watch other people going and having their prom when you don't get to have prom. Like, nobody's having prom right now.
Right.
And so, it's not fair for anyone, right? So make a plan for that. Hey, maybe I'm going to plan to, do this with 20 people, in July or whenever it is that this is done.
Okay. Super important. We do have to run. We have to take another quick commercial break, but I would love to have you back on. Are you maybe available to come back on next week?
Yes, absolutely.
That would be fantastic. And as I mentioned, I'm getting texts from people saying, how can I get her contact information? You mentioned before off the air, for those of us that would like maybe a teletherapy session or to reach out to Cristina to get some advice, whether it's working directly with her or getting pointed in the right direction. Her phone number is 661-513-4857. Now, Cristina, is that your direct line?
Yes, that's my cell phone number.
Oh, fantastic. And gosh, she's opening up her cell phone number for you guys to reach out to. So if you need some support during this difficult time or support with some of the trauma that you've been through, give her a call at 661-513-4857. We do have to take another quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about what to do when your child has a meltdown. Cristina, I want to thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to having you back next week. You're listening to SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I'm Matt Watson with Amber Raskin on your hometown station, KHTS.
You see so much when you look at your child. A creative spirit that surprises you every day. Curiosity that develops into exploring unique passions. A little leader growing every day to discover who they are, what they love, and how they can make their mark on the world. At SCVI, we see those same amazing things. Our tuition-free K-12 charter school gives your child boundless opportunities to think critically and imagine freely, with a customized learning program built around each individual student. As iLead's founding school, SCVI combines an immersive approach to traditional subject learning with extracurricular activities including STEAM, robotics, theater, music, and sports. SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in Santa Clarita, with a 10-year proven track record of graduates excelling at top universities. And we're in your backyard, just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley in Castaic. For enrollment information or to learn more about our program, including homeschool options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org. iLead Schools, free to think, inspired to lead.
Did you know you can attend College of the Canyons tuition free? Yeah. Canyons Promise provides incoming first-time college students the opportunity to attend College of the Canyons tuition-free for their first 2 years. And you don't even have to be a recent high school graduate to take advantage of the opportunity. Anyone who's a first-time college student and meets the Canyons Promise criteria can sign up. Visit canyons.edu/promise for full details and to get signed up before June 15th. canyons.edu/promise.
The Art Gallery of Santa Clarita Artists Association, located in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Railroad and Main, features local members' original artwork with changing exhibits every 2 months. Purchase affordable art for your home or as gifts. Open Friday through Sunday or by appointment. Artists wishing to join the SCAA can visit santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming shows, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
At SCVI, we don't just prepare your child for the real world. We empower them to imagine and build the world they want for themselves. Our tuition-free TK-12 charter school combines project-based learning with extracurriculars from robotics to theater to sports to give your child boundless opportunities to explore who they are. Located just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley, SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in the area. For enrollment information, including open enrollment options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org.
City Councilman Bob Keller here. Keep it tuned to 98.1 FM and AM 1220 KHTS, hometownstation.com for the latest information regarding COVID-19. KHTS will have both national and local news and information during this unprecedented time. For more, go to the KHTS website or the KHTS Facebook page. KHTS is also available online in the free app for iPhone and Android. Continue to social distance, only going out if it's absolutely necessary, and continue to check on friends and family. With your help, we will flatten the curve and come through this stronger than ever. Thank you.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 on the AM side. This is Matt Watson with Amber Raskin, and you're listening to Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. So, we've been talking parenting when the going gets rough, and it seems like a lot of that has been happening lately, judging from my Facebook feed. We've talked about neutralizing arguments. We've talked about leading with empathy, and I want to thank Cristina, who was on with us in the previous break, talking about how important it is to validate your kids' feelings and lead with empathy. We also talked a little bit about how to handle consequences. But what do you do when your child is in full meltdown? He's not arguing. He is out of control. She's not in any position to receive your empathy, and certainly it's not time for consequences right now. They just need to calm down, and then we can continue with our plan. So what do you do when your kid just goes ballistic? Well, when things get out of control, take a tip from the CDC and implement a little social distancing. It's time for some recovery. Your child needs some distance so that he can settle down, regain control of himself, and avoid disrupting anyone else that may be around, whether that's a family member or if you happen to be out. Now, if and when this does happen when you're out in the public, the grocery store, church, family gatherings, it's a very special time for any parent. It's about the least convenient thing that can happen. However, as inconvenient as it might be, you've got to get your kid out of there, okay? Take her to the car, to a secluded room if you can. If it comes to that, you may just have to leave. And I know, you just start your grocery shopping and the refrigerator's a little bit bare and your kid just throws himself on the ground and throws a full-blown tantrum that you can't get under control. You may have to leave and come back. But given our current social state of cloister, that is, we're probably not going to be going to the grocery store or in church or at a family gathering with our kids anytime soon. So let's focus on how we can handle this when it happens at home. Because, am I right? 9 times out of 10, these meltdowns do happen when our kids feel a little bit more comfortable kicking and screaming and things like that. So when a child is out of control, they need some time to recover. What is simple and logical, but many of us need to shift our mindset a little bit, okay? We need to shift our mindset in regards to this process of recovery, because a lot of times we send our kids away. We send them to recovery, but shifting our mind about what it's for, okay? First of all, this is not a timeout, okay? I'm not a big fan of timeouts. That's kind of a personal exile. What recovery is not a punishment. It's just that. It's recovery time. It's time to settle down, okay? Second thing is recovery is designed for the child, not for us. It's true, we might need some time away as well, right? But that's different. That is just an added bonus when our child goes in recovery, okay? But again, this is about the child. It's not us getting a break, but again, that's an ancillary bonus. This is about the child. So here's a few do's and don'ts that I want you to keep in mind when your child has gone ballistic and needs some time away, that recovery process, okay? So some of those do's. Separate your child for a minimal amount of time. Don't give them that punitive timeout, okay? Do consider this recovery before they return, because the goal is for them to come back and rejoin the family, right? Do not exile them, again, for extended periods of time. Do allow them to take their own recovery time, especially your kids that are a little older. Allow them to say, you know what, I need a break right now. I need to go to my room, okay? Do not pressure them to talk before they're ready. Do make clear that you want them back, okay? Remember, you love your child. You don't love their behavior right now, but you do want them back. Do not tell them, you know what, I don't want to see you right now, okay? That breaks that love and trusting relationship, okay? Do allow them to process alone. Do not send them to another authority. Go talk to your father or go talk to another person. You're A, relinquishing your authority, and B, you're giving up on them, okay? Do bring them back and deal with things. Do not forget about them, okay? This is time to recover and then come back. Now, if there were rules that were broken, if they made a mistake, we talked about consequences. Those are needed. But once they've recovered, bring them back in. Lead with empathy. Are you feeling better? I know that was a tough time for you, but let's talk about what you did, okay? So that recovery time is time for them to settle down. Now, what you might want to do is make sure that you've got a place set up for that. When we're at home, usually their bedroom is a very convenient place, but if they share a bedroom with siblings, that might not necessarily be the space for them. So if you've got your kids sharing a bedroom, maybe you want to set up a little space in your bedroom that's a place for them to recover, a place for them to be safe, right? You don't want it to be right there in the kitchen next to the stove that's on and the butcher block. But set up a space for that, okay? Remember, this recovery time is time for your kids, okay? Well, we're just about out of time for today, but I do want to thank you for joining us. I do want to thank our guests who joined us on the phone, Kendra Bailey, our homeschool authority, as well as licensed marriage and family therapist, Kristina Debray. And I also want to thank you for joining us this morning. Please join us tomorrow when we've got play-based learning expert Aiden Bybee on, and we'll also be hearing from other experts in the community. I believe the mayor may be joining us. We will see you tomorrow and every day at 9 a.m. You're listening to SCVI Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I'm your host, Matt Watson, with Amber Raskin, here on your hometown station, KHTS. Stay tuned for frequent news breaks and updates. Take care of each other.
Make it a great day.